friends, my name is Victoria and welcome back to another video. My mother recently asked me if I think I talk about SNL too much. This is your answer. So, as you likely already know, last week concluded season 46 of Saturday Night Live, and I did not miss a single episode because I love this show more than anything, and there was also like a thing going on that prevented me from leaving the house. I always have a great time watching SNL because I love the cast and I love seeing the work that they put in, and I love pop culture, I guess, so in that sense I'm literally never disappointed, but the show is sometimes not good, and that can be disappointing for some people. However, at the same time, I don't like when people make very generalized statements about the show and say that its entirety is not funny anymore just because, like, Bill Hader left years ago, you know? I think the show has continued to produce great content, and I thought that since I feel the most knowledgeable on this season just because I've been able to be a bit more invested this year, it would be fun to review everything and talk about what I liked. My main goal is to end this episode with a clear pick for best episode of the season. I realize that I'm not the best person to be doing this just because of my lack of funny, so I hope you can understand that this is one viewer's opinion and my results mean nothing to anyone who is not me. Okay, so I'll start by telling you how I'm going to be approaching this in terms of the weight of each component. It's not the smartest system, but basically I'm going to pay most attention to the actual sketches, and then I'll probably look at Weekend Update, although I don't think I'll have much to say because I thought it was pretty great every week. Then it'll probably be the monologue, and then lastly the musical guest. I care a lot about the music, but that's probably more subjective than comedy itself, so I'm not going to judge a whole episode off of that. You get it. Another quick disclaimer before we start, I'm not going to talk the same amount about each episode. Like, if I don't think something is a standout, I'll probably go over it fairly quickly. It's just because there's 20 of these and I don't want this video to be like super long. Okay, so Season 46 kicked off with host Chris Rock and musical guest Megan Thee Stallion, and it wasn't a bad episode, but it wasn't my favorite either. As I mentioned in my last SNL video, there's a certain type of cold open that I don't love, and a lot of the early ones this season were exactly that, although it's for understandable reasons. There was still a lot of great work in this episode. I thought Bottom of Your Face and The Drew Barrymore Show were some of my favorite things in the world. Update was great as usual, and Megan gave some incredible performances. I just can't have this in the running for best episode when sketches like Super Spreader Event exist as well. So I'm going to skip over episodes 2 and 3. They were hosted by Bill Burr and Issa Rae with guests Jack White and Justin Bieber respectively. They weren't terrible, they just weren't standouts to me, and most viewers agreed, so I don't have much to contribute, so. Next, episode 4 was hosted by Adele with musical guest Her, and I was really impressed with this episode. Great monologues, so many good sketches like The Bachelor, OMG, I love that one, and then I thought the Village People on Update were so funny. This could be a contender, but once again, cold open was kind of there. Some sketches like Angel Jeans were good, not great, so we'll see where it ends up, but I'd say that it was the best this far into the season. We now move on to episode 5, and boy oh boy do I have things to say. This was hosted by John Mulaney with musical guest The Strokes on Halloween. I love John Mulaney, I love The Strokes, I love Halloween. So in terms of experience, this was undoubtedly the best for me. Like, I remember every detail about this night, but in terms of quality, that could be debated, so let's take a look. Monologue was obviously fantastic. The bird sketch was incredible. I've seen it like 100 times. The Headless Horseman was creative, and The Strokes very much killed it. However, Baby Yoda's not always my favorite, although I do love Kyle. The New York PSA and Uncle Meme sketches were fine, but not the best, and while I always enjoy the musicals he does, I would say that this was the weakest of the 4. I think it's similar to Adele's where it could be the best right now, but that might change as we look at more episodes. We now move on to the post-election special. This was hosted by Dave Chappelle with the Foo Fighters. This was a highly anticipated one, and I think it was good. Take Me Back and Hailstorm were really funny. The Uncle Ben sketch was wild. I don't have a lot of complaints from what I recall. I think it was good, but just not my favorite. Next, episode 7 was hosted by Jason Bateman, and it was great. It's not a bad episode, but points are being deducted for giving Morgan Wallen a second chance at being musical guest. Next up, we have Timothée Chalamet with music from Bruce Springsteen and the Wall Street Band, E Street Band. I have a bit to say about this one, and not necessarily because I think it's a contender, but it was a really popular episode. A lot of my friends watched it because we're teenage girls, and a lot of the world is. And I think there were a lot of really strong sketches in here, like Rap Roundtable, like I mean that. However, Holiday Baking Championship has to go. The update features were good, not great, and I didn't love the music, It was a fun episode though. Now, episode 9 was hosted by Kristen Wiig with Dua Lipa, and I loved it because I loved them. Secret Word, Christmas Morning, USO performance, all such hilarious stuff. That being said, the Grinch sketch dropped whatever this show's score previously was like into the negatives. It made me uncomfortable. Also, monologue could have been better. Moving on. John Krasinski and Machine Gun Kelly. I don't have much to say about this one. I've heard people say that this was their favorite, and I'm very happy for them, but I wouldn't go that far. I did enjoy it, it just wasn't a standout. Episode 11, however, hosted by Dan Levy with Phoebe Bridgers, was a big one for me. I think it's a strong contender. Lots of good sketches. My favorite was the Universal Tram, and I am, of course, obsessed with Phoebe, so this was a very good night for me. I don't have a lot to add, just know that I liked it. After this was Regina King with Nathaniel Rateliff. Now, this was not a standout in its entirety for me, but certain sketches were. I thought the birthday gift sketch was one of the funniest things ever, and women's theater was very nice too. Other parts just weren't as promising, unfortunately, but I enjoyed it. Now, this next episode I might be talking about for a while. We're on episode 13, hosted by Regé-Jean Page with Bad Bunny. Now, I went into this with no expectations. I had never seen Bridgerton, probably never will, because I don't believe in that kind of physical activity, but I knew nothing about the guy, and what I got was one of the best episodes ever. There were no bad sketches, like even the worst sketch was really good. Also, both the cold open and the monologue were great, which is kind of rare. Also, this episode had a whole sketch about driver's license, which at the time was like the most important thing in the world to me. These are screenshots of the texts I sent while watching that live to my friends. None of them were watching. They were very confused. I was very excited, hence the typos, but it was fun. Now, the next episode, which was hosted by Nick Jonas, I'm gonna kind of skip. I don't know if it was just because he followed the last episode, but I was not terribly impressed. However, the amusement park sketch with the guy from Soul could actually be my favorite of the season, so do with that what you will. After Nick, we have Maya Rudolph with musical guest Jack Harlow. And now, interesting enough, according to tvline.com, I don't know if that's a reliable source, this was their readers' most favorite, this was the episode they liked the best this season. Now, I feel like most people would disagree after just watching the cold open. Like, this wasn't a huge standout for me, but I thought the hot ones and choreographer sketches were very nice, so I can see where they're coming from. After Maya was Daniel Kaluuya with St. Vincent, which TV Line viewers actually named the worst of the season. I also think this is wrong, but I agree that it wasn't the best. Ego Odom did a fantastic job in Proud Parents, though, so that's one I would recommend. Okay, now it's time for another disproportionate discussion. Episode 17, Carey Mulligan, Kid Cudi. So I am very much in love with Carey Mulligan. She's currently my lock screen. I would show you, but I film with my phone. Also, Kid Cudi is one of my favorite musicians of all time. I think he's like my third most listened to artist on Spotify right now, so this was a perfect episode for me before it even started, and it luckily delivered like crazy. I've rewatched this like 100 times now. I feel like it's another episode that does not have a bad sketch. Also, Timothée Chalamet made a cameo. You can't ask for more than that. I loved it. Unfortunately, we do have to move on to episode 18, which was hosted by Elon Musk with musical guest Miley Cyrus. Now, Elon Musk is very popular with a specific type of guy. I have a lot of friends who constantly make fun of me for watching SNL, decide to watch this episode out of all episodes just because he was on it. And unfortunately, it wasn't good. I have 3 words for you: Gen Z Hospital. We can move on. Luckily, SNL made up for this by getting Keegan-Michael Key with Olivia Rodrigo, a phenomenal lineup. Now, I was very happy with this. I thought this was one of the best cold opens this season. They also had Andrew Dismuke's Weekend Update debut, and I'm very much in love with him. And of course, Olivia Rodrigo. She's the coolest girl alive. I was very pleased. It was not my favorite, but it was very, very good. And then, lastly, we've reached episode 20, OMG. This was hosted by Anya Taylor-Joy with musical guest Lil Nas X, another beautiful lineup, and once again, just a really great show. I admittedly spent most of it trying to gauge each cast member's emotional state so I could figure out who's leaving next season, but I loved it. Also, Lil Nas X gave some of the best performances of the season, I think. So overall, really good episode, a wonderful way to close the season. And now, we're done. So the final question is, what was the best episode of the season? It was a close race. We saw 20 great episodes, but I think I made my choice. Now I'm gonna start by telling you my runner-up. Episode 17, Carey Mulligan, Kid Cudi. I wanted to put this as first, but I'm gonna tell you why I didn't. I have a heavy bias towards it. Like, I would have enjoyed this if it was bad because it has 2 people I really like, and I think I definitely overlooked some issues with it because of this. However, I still think it's worthy of at least this spot. Like, it was a good episode. Now, that episode is probably still my personal favorite, but quality-wise, there probably was a stronger one. The best episode of the season. according to a teenage girl with 29 subscribers sitting on the carpeted floor of what her mother calls the Zen room. Episode 13, Regé-Jean Page, Bad Bunny. Now I know I'm not biased for this one because I didn't know the host before this started. I don't really listen to Bad Bunny. Like, this just legitimately blew me away. I didn't think there was a bad sketch. It made me happy. I feel good about this decision. I hope you do too. I'm almost certain you do not, but I appreciate you watching regardless. I usually have a nice little outro, but I feel like this video is going to be kind of long already. So, just like or comment or subscribe if you'd like to. This is kind of all I do on here. I very much appreciate you watching. I said nothing insightful today, so if you got here, that's rad. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you. Bye! I don't know if I have any bloopers today, so if I don't, Bo Burnham's comedy special comes out on Sunday, and I think you should all watch it. I mean, I guess it could be bad. I doubt that, so do that.